Welcome to this episode of Winding Paths, where I'm going to be joined with Jennifer Chiang. She went from Army Sergeant to influencer marketing CEO. And I'm really curious about how Jennifer's career unfolded. So let's dig in and meet Jennifer and find out where she's at, where she's been, and where she's going to next. Hey, Jennifer.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
Fantastic.
Awesome. So tell me, what was your day like? Like just before we hopped onto this video, what were you up to?
I was just coming out of a fantastic growth and sales strategy with our business development manager, and it was awesome. We're learning every day, we're grinding, we're seeing results. So excited to jump in.
That's kind of interesting because that doesn't really sound like what you were doing before. When I think about, Army Sergeant, I don't see growth marketing in there. Can you tell us a little bit about being an Army Sergeant and what that part of your career was like before you got here?
I think being a soldier was one of the best life experiences that you could throw yourself in. I when you think about growth, you think about being uncomfortable, and a lot of times we feel like we're not growing because we're not seeing the results we need to see. But you realize that growth doesn't come with that discomfort and those trials and mistakes. So I liken growing a startup and the hardships to it, similar to how going through the army and all the boot camp training and all of the tasks that we had to do really taught me persistence, resilience, and discipline.
Hmm. I'm very curious now because now I'm thinking, we talk, or maybe it's less so in Canada, but I feel like there's a lot of conversations about military vets and military vets having a hard time getting roles. And I'm just what you're saying there about this teaching you to be a great leader in startups. What advice do you have for maybe other people who have come from a military background?
I, for one, am a big supporter of vets and people who have gone through the military. I also have a personal dream, actually, Crystal, of one day of hiring more vets and people who, are just got off their deployment or are transitioning into the civilian life, which is what we live. So that's one of my passions is to be able to give back that way. I think some of the biggest advice I would give is to not undersell yourself in this civilian world. See, for the military, people in the military, there's a very distinct difference between military life and civilian life. They often don't see them as the same. So someone who's very decorated or experienced in the military might have some self-doubt when going into the civilian working world, and also like get support. So for vets out there who have a lot of issues post deployment, like PTSD, mental health, they're you're not alone, and there's a lot of great resources and support groups out there. So that's my other piece of advice, but less about the career, more about the inward journey.
Yeah. So what was it like for you going from military life to civilian life? Tell us more about that transition for you.
So I joined the Army Reserves, which luckily meant that I could still go to school, have a full-time job, but on the weekends and on the weekdays, some weekdays I would be training and working. And summers I would be taken away and going off to a different city for training, and the same thing. The transition was, I guess I didn't really feel it when it was happening, but looking back at it, it made me appreciate how in the army, very similar to a startup environment, you have a very male dominated table. And I learned in the army that in order for me to earn a seat at this table, it was important for me to catch up to all my metrics as the guy. So I had to shoot the same machine guns, the same accuracy. I had to learn how to shoot and fire assault rifles, throw grenades, push-ups, pull-ups. There was no buffer just because I was a woman. You just have to accept that it's harder. And it doesn't mean that you can't do it or that they should lower the standard for you. It just means it's harder, which means you have to work harder, you have to train more, you have to practice more. But the most rewarding thing is when you can do it everyone around you knows it's hard. So when they see you do it, you earn just that much more respect and clout. So in business, I approach it the same way, right? I, run it in the way that I want to earn a seat at the table because of my merit and hard work as a businesswoman. And I take that inspiration from watching other women in the army, really exceed expectations, go above and beyond, and often were more decorated or celebrated than their male counterparts just because they put in that extra work.
Mm. When did you know? Was there a moment when you knew that you wanted to have your own startup? Like how'd you get to here?
I wake up thinking, asking myself that every day. No, just kidding. I, starting a company, God, I wonder. There was no business school for me. Like I never went to school thinking I was going to work and have a business and run a company. For me, it was about,
Hang on a sec. What did you think you were gonna do?
honestly, I thought I was going to be a pirate.
I love that.
I wanted to be a pirate. I wanted the ability to like go anywhere I want in the world, to live a life of just independence. But I guess okay, no, seriously though, that or an artist. So for me, I'm about creating, and there's a great quote by I think it was Picasso. He said, "The best form of art is good business."
Hmm,
And
I've never heard that.
it's always stuck in my head. And I was like, okay, if you're an artist and you're a really good artist, that should translate into things like business, because all business is empathy, understanding the market, understanding your product, understanding your team. So for me, the company is not hard numbers or revenue. It's this beautifully designed ecosystem of, am I delivering value to that customer? Are they enjoying the product? Are they seeing joy out of it? Similar to how when you view a piece of art in an art gallery, is it bringing value to you? Is it meaningful to you? And is it joyful for you? So,
Wow.
yeah.
Uh, is there any correlation between pirate and startup CEO?
I think just the badassery of it. Both my parents, classic immigrant story. Moved from China with a great education, but then having left that and having to start all over. I think I saw how I appreciate how hard it was, but I also have so much admiration for how badass my parents are in getting to where they are today. And I think that always to me was somehow imagined as like a pirate, someone who's not afraid to go into new frontiers, someone that was just sort of like a no holds bar kind of attitude. I guess that was sort of the core inspiration behind my personality and my values and beliefs. So,
What role did education play in your career journey?
you know, in for startup founders specifically, it's the classic, Ivy League graduate, MBA, and those are insanely valuable assets to have. But I think I have a very unique background in industrial design, and that is product design. So you learn things like empathy, user design focused products. I think just going through that learning process of understanding your customer emotionally, mentally, and physically has added a ton of value to my role as CEO, because those design principles can be applied, not just with your product, but with your people and your team and your vendors and your lawyers, and the list goes on and on. So I think my education, the greatest asset I learned was the design principles.
When you're looking back at the career that has been in the rearview mirror, looking back on these last 10 years, anything that you would change or do differently?
One thing I would change is all those times I felt like I couldn't say something or I didn't belong. I wish I had something or someone telling me that you do belong, and I wish I had that internal, now I have it now, but I wish back then I had that voice in my head that's like, you can do it and it's okay to be here. because I think so many of us, we feel struggle with this imposter syndrome. Especially with my background in the army, I felt like I didn't belong in the army at times. How many Asian girls do you see in the army? Like that's by itself, I do feel like I didn't belong. And then going into school, which was an art and design university, I also felt like I didn't belong because I was in the army. So I always had this like, and I guess I intentionally put myself into these situations where I felt like there was this polarizing dynamic between my environment and my core self. And I guess in business, it was always this, it manifested itself in the what felt like the imposter syndrome. So going back 10 years, I'd be like, be aware of this and work on it more clearly than I had in the past.
That is some sage advice for self-awareness and self-discovery. I love that.
Thank you. That was deep.
That was deep. What's your prediction for your own career?
Ooh, my own prediction. So I see Musefind as $100 million business. I see this as a massive, massive, um, winning company in the art industry specifically. I want to have fun with it. I think there's so many things we can do beside the product. For example, we want to eventually do potentially a fund later on that invests into influencers, or we want to see what AI looks like for influencer marketing. And I have great partners. Like I have two co-founders that we've worked together. Stephen for the last 8 years, Andrew for 3 years now. I'm just excited to keep building. I think this is not going to be my first and last company. I think there'll be great things in the future. But for now, this first company is going to be $100 million company.
I see this, I see a thread that runs through this. You're like, I'm just excited to keep building. Sounds like you've had a lifetime of wanting to just keep building. You just keep building.
It's addictive. Yeah. I don't think I'll ever retire. I think I'll just always be doing something.
That's excellent because I think the world needs more you. So
You'll
I would like to see you at age 80 still building something.
or on the far seas of the Atlantic or Pacific Ocean
Yeah, that's very pirate.
in my pirate ship
That's right, that you built.
when I'm 80.
Can I come on that ship? That sounds like the fun yacht.
Bring your plants, bring your garden, bring your greenhouse, bring it all.
Excellent. I will see you there. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat just a little bit about your career and giving some advice like this to everybody who will listen to this. It's inspiring to hear your story and to get a chance to kind of like walk in there and kind of to see what it is that makes you you. And your Musefind is very lucky to have you. And so is the tech ecosystem just in general. So thank you for being you.